So I'm going to start with how this process management is going to be a relevant topic for a DevOps engineer. So from that context, I'm going to talk. Okay, so let me copy this one. Okay, coming to the bottom and placing it here. So the topic is process. Okay, it is also a very interesting thing in Linux to understand how the processes are generally managed. I will tell how this is going to impact a DevOps engineer's life. Okay, maybe whatever topic we learn, we need to correlate with that DevOps, right? Because that's the main agenda why we are here. Okay, so listen carefully. I won't take more time here. You see, when in the production, I mean, DevOps means mostly we end up into automations and infrastructures and all that. Okay. When it comes to production, for example, let's say you are maintaining containers. Okay? You are maintaining containers, and let's say you are maintaining virtual machines. Okay, and in let's say if we start from containers. Okay, so container, when we learn container, you know what is a container. For now I'm just giving how this is practically applied, whether you go for container, or let's say it's a VM. Okay, two things: VM or container. VM or container. Now, whether you go to VM in the production or whether you manage containers and all that, what you will ultimately run inside these things is your workloads. Okay. So, for example, your app services, your database services, that is what you generally run within this. Okay. So, to be clearly putting things together, I would like to say what you run inside. You run inside this, you run your workloads. Okay, run workloads. RUN workloads. Okay. So workloads means what is workloads? Now, sometime back also I used the word workloads. Okay, so maybe in the initial days of this Linux sessions and all that, I may be introducing slow some terminologies, which is very useful in the container session and the upcoming futuristic sessions. So you see container and VM or anything specifically, let's say whether if I'm talking in the context of cloud, containers in the cloud, or VMs in the cloud, anything. Okay, so whether this or whether this or that. Okay, so whatever it is, in my opinion, what I would like to say is running the workloads is the main thing. Okay, you run a container or a VM or any kind of server in the production and all that. Running the workload is the ultimate goal. The workloads can be like, for example, so far, I mean, even in SloopStash, we do so many things. So I would say the workloads will be like, let's say, the workload could be an Hadoop node. Okay, the workload could be an Elasticsearch cluster, Elasticsearch node. Okay, and the workload could be a a Python app, your app. Okay, let's say it could be a Java app, would be your workload. A MySQL database is a workload. A MySQL database is a workload. Redis database is a workload. We will be using most of these things. That's why I'm saying, okay. So we will practically see that Kafka cluster is a workload. So there are different workloads which you run, but these workloads you can run inside a container, you can run inside a VM. Okay. Now, when you say running the workloads, most of these workloads are going to be run inside. I mean, inside the container means how it will run. It will run as a process. Okay, it will run as a process, whether this thing, or this thing, or this thing, or this one, or this one. All these runs as a process. That is why I came here. So all these things, I can put it like, let's say, for example, um, I can say all these workloads runs as processes. Okay, runs as a processes. Okay, sometimes people say microservices, services, this, that, and all that, but whatever you say, it's all going to be a Linux process. That's all. Okay, Linux process in simple terms. Now, if this is the true story, okay, whether this is not just for cloud alone, sometimes you should not mistakenly understand me. This topic is not just about cloud, okay. Even if you say on-premises systems, okay, on-premises, this is true. On-premise, this is true. Okay, so my recommendation about this is how to view how a DevOps engineer has to see this process topic is like in the production, whether a container or a VM, you are going to run workloads. Okay, so that's why we use a VM or a container. Whether it's a microprocess, this, that, or whatever it is, it's all going to be a process. Okay, it's all going to be a process. You need to remember this key thing. Now, it's all going to be a process. That's all. Okay, it all comes down here. Now, if something is not right, if something is not right, or if something is wrong, okay, then you need to come under the hood and do something. Okay, that's when the process management kicks in for you. For example, I'll give a very simple explanation. Very simple. When you take Kafka, okay, Kafka workload, Kafka cluster in container or VM, anything, or Hadoop or Elasticsearch. All these things, what you see, are JVM based workloads. Okay, Java virtual, it's all Java applications. Okay, internally, it's all the Java applications. So whether the Kafka or whether you see the Hadoop or you see the Elasticsearch, all these things are practically Java applications. Simply Java, written in Java. So it's a Java virtual machine. Okay, JVM, called JVM, Java Virtual Machine. Okay, Java is a Java Virtual Machine. So when you run a Java process, it's basically, if you want to understand, it's a Java process. Okay, when you run it like that, for example, if you in the production, okay, suppose if it is not functioning the way how you expect it to function, or suppose it is malfunctioning, or suppose it is slowing down. There are so many reasons. Okay, so I'll just write down the reasons. The reasons could be like this JVM, where the Kafka application is it's a JVM process, so it may slow down, it may become slow. Okay, or sometimes this during the garbage collection cycles, okay, it may generally slow down. Okay, sometimes it goes unresponsive. Sometimes it may crash, okay, due to lack of memory. So anything can happen in a live production infrastructure. Anything can happen in a live production infrastructure. The important reason is production is a different game. In DevOps world, when you are onboarded in a company, you generally are not going to do things with um, I mean, just say we are not going to just run some commands and get out. We may need to do some performance engineering and all that. If something is crashing, we may need to fix it. So it's not a tough thing, I would say, but we need an understanding on how to do it. There are potential possible reasons why certain things slows down in the production. Okay, there are potential reasons. In the case of Java virtual machine, I would like to say, in my personal experience on scaling these elastic sets kind of clusters and all that, I have seen if you go to Java virtual, Java application, Java related environment, you see the full GC eviction, full garbage collection. I mean, if you are not aware of that, it's totally fine. I'm just giving an example. In the terms of full GC eviction, what happens is you see these scenarios happening. Full GC garbage collector eviction. It's a memory cleaning up process. That's all in simple words. Okay. If you ask me what is this full GC eviction, in every programming language is there. It's a memory cleanup process. Okay, memory cleanup. Okay. So what happens is you see the JVM slows down, the JVM goes unresponsive, sometimes the JVM crashes, sometimes it's very hard to handle that. When in the under the hood, if you see it is slowing down or unresponsive or crashing, how will you manage that? If you try to run a command, it does not respond. It won't work that way. So in that scenario, we must know how to control this. That's why we are here. Okay, we are here in the DevOps world. When if automation is a different wing in DevOps, it's a very easy wing. Okay, but when it comes to actual production engineering, building improving the performance of your workload, whether in container or a VM, that is a different art. Okay, so in that scenario, my recommendation is we need to know how to control this process. Okay, so what we are going to learn in this process session or process management session is like we're going to see how to how to control the processes or how to handle the process. That is why process management is an important task for a DevOps engineer. Okay, so whatever topic we learn, we need to learn it with relevancy. Okay, so otherwise it will be just like a topic. So this is the place, and I can say so many things, but I believe this one example is more than enough. Okay, so in cloud or in on-premise or in any place, you can run containers, VM, or anything like that. But whatever you run, my thing is, if something is not responding properly, how will you handle it? That is why we need process management. Okay, so I made my point very clear. That's all.